Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing on this afternoon? Welcome to this week's episode of Think Tank Thursday. I am Candi Kelley. I am your host for this week, and I'll be your guest for this week. So thanks for taking the time to join me. Before we jump in, I would like to show some love to my 2023 Think Tank sponsors. Thank you to Simnox, Redemption Plus, Roller Software, Betson, and Delta Strength. We are so grateful for their support, which allows us to bring you episodes every single week. So if you've been following Think Tank, you know that on Thursdays, TrainerTainment likes to take a little bit of time away from the doing and spend a little time thinking with all of you. So today, we're going to think about guest service. So I have spent the last 2 weeks traveling and going to see clients in some different parts of the country. And so I have been in restaurants and in retail shops and in entertainment centers and the airport and rental car places and all types of those things, you know, the places that you visit when you travel. And man, there are some themes that I'm noticing when it comes to guest service. But instead of being, I guess, just flummoxed by it, I see it as an opportunity for those who are really ready to embrace this year as their year for guest service. The bar is kind of low out there. So to provide consistent guest service, you don't have to do a whole lot to really set yourself apart from the competition. And if you haven't thought about how you may do that, well, I'm here to ask you some how questions today to maybe start getting you thinking about that. So today, just like I said, I have 5 questions that start with the word how that I want to go through with you. Question number 1 I have for you is, how are guests welcomed at your establishment? I can't even begin to tell you the number of places I walked into, and not only did I get a welcome, but when I walked past anybody who worked at the establishment, I didn't even acknowledge that I existed. It's you know, that's not much fun for a client or guest or customer, whatever you want to call them. So, but this is such an easy remedy. I'm a big proponent of the smile and say hi method. What does that mean? It means that anytime you make eye contact with anyone who's walking in your establishment, if you're an employee of that establishment, then you smile and say hi to them, even if you say nothing else. But hi, how are you doing today? Or hi, how's your visit with us? It goes a little bit extra way, but if you could just smile and say hi and acknowledge that they are there, man, what a difference that would make. When they walk in your door, welcome them and make sure that they are assisted in whatever way that they need. But I have walked in quite a few establishments where I made it all the way in. No one ever even acknowledged that I was there. So that first step, what kind of tone does that set for the rest of the visit or the rest of the interaction that I have with them? So my first question I want you to think about when you're thinking about your guest service this year is, how are guests welcomed at your establishment? How do you want to be welcomed? My second question is, how can you eliminate friction for your guest? Let me tell you the story. When I was traveling, I was at a restaurant and I was eating, and I watched, there was no one at the hostess stand, and a family walked in. They waited a few minutes at the host stand and no one came. So then they sat themselves at a table. The server came, told them they had to be seated by the host, sent them back to the host stand, did go get the host to go meet them there, just for that family to get turned around and resat at the same table they were just asked to get up from. How much friction does that cause in the very beginning of their experience at this restaurant getting ready to eat? That sets the tone for their it doesn't matter really what happened after that, because that frustration of having to get up, go back to the host stand just to go back to the exact same table they were already at, it puts a damper over everything else. And so look at what you can do. How else can you eliminate friction for your guest? Making sure that there are easy ways to pay. Making sure that they can get another arcade card without having to wait too long. What are these other things? And sometimes we get so busy doing the operations of our business. I know I was often guilty of this when I was in operations, that we don't take a lot of time to just sit back and watch the customer flow and what customers do when they're in their establishment. So my challenge to you is like, schedule yourself some time on a busy little burst and look, come in there not as an employee and watch your customers and guests and see where they have friction and where you can see them kind of roll their eyes or make those facial expressions that we all know means frustration. And then think to yourself, how can I eliminate this point of friction for my guest? And then act on that. So that's my second how question. How can you eliminate friction for your guests? My third question is, how can you create a memorable experience? Now, not all of my travel experiences were negative. I had some really decent ones. I was at a client, and one of the things that I was caught by surprise, they are a hockey center. So for their local hockey team, they are partnered with them. And so that game was on, and every time they score a goal, they have a wireless mic, and someone comes on and they cheer in their bar that's connected to their entertainment center. And then they have a little wheel that they get to spin, and they get little prizes, and they can get themselves put into a drawing to go to a Blues game later on this season. And so how fun was that? What a memorable experience. If you're just there to watch a game or do anything, and then everyone is cheering together, it makes it a more community, more social experience. If you're a bowling center, like, could you celebrate strikes that you see? Or is there something that can be put in place when someone gets one of those 3 strikes in a row to celebrate that? If you hear that, anything that makes it a memorable experience that they can talk about. And that can even be down to, we all have those instructions that we have to give. With laser tag, you come to the briefing room, you get your set of rules and instructions. Go-karts, you've got some instructions for that as well. Man, how are you doing those? Is that a memorable experience? Is it is it fun? Does it have some humor in it? Or is it all just serious and here are the rules and you must not do this and you can't do this and don't do this and make sure to do this? Well, it's boring. So look at the opportunities that you have. Well, we're already interacting with the guest. We're already there, and ask yourself, how can you create a memorable experience? 4, how can you create surprise and delight moments? My favorite surprise and delight if you are a follower of me and what I believe in when it comes to guest service, is and forever will be a handwritten note. When something can go, when you work with somebody or remember something about someone or have a special guest or client that comes in with you, I love handwritten notes. It's why handwritten thank you notes are the reason why I use my carpet company. They're the reason why I use our person who is our seamstress for taking in clothing and stuff, and it's the reason why we use our dry cleaner. We have chosen those and chosen to be loyal to those companies because of handwritten thank you notes. So I just think that the longevity of that surprise and delight can go quite far. But what other things can you do? We can use our ears. Teach your employees to use their ears. If I overhear that it's someone's birthday, even if they're not there to celebrate like an official birthday party, I could easily give them a $5 game card and be like, hey buddy, I heard it was your birthday. Let me say happy birthday, and here, take this game card and play some games on me. I hope you have an awesome time. Quick, easy, very low cost to us. I know there is a cost around it, but very low, but still creates a surprise and delight moment that they can go on and talk about. I was at a center not too long ago and watched a kid who really wanted to play air hockey, kept playing with the pucks and all of those things. And I was so delighted to see an employee walk over, swipe their employee card, and they played against the kid. And the smile on that child's face was worth every second of that. And so what are some of those things? How can we make our employees know and to look for these surprise and delight moments that are there? They exist every day of your operation. We just have to train and to be able to look for them. Which leads me to my 5th question. How are you training and educating your staff on the proper etiquette that you want them to follow for your business, for your establishment? we all have different things and quirks about the different brands that we work in. And so how do you expect your employees to know that? They're not just going to come in and know exactly how you want them to act, exactly what words you want them to say, exactly the phrasing of how you want them to say things. And so we have to train them. And training, not only is it essential, guys, it's not a one-time event. I often go and say, well, I will talk to some of my clients and they'll say, well, I trained them when they started. Well, how long ago did they start? And how much other information were they told in those first 2 weeks of them starting that it's like a fire hose? And how am I supposed to take all of that into my brain? Training has to be consistently ongoing. We have to coach people up. We have to remind them when they don't do the right thing. We have to show them what we do want them to do. You even have to train them in the type of language that you want them to use. I mean, as simple as if your location has a certain greeting or has a way that they welcome people to a go-kart track, we have to train them on what it is we want them to say. So my fifth question is, how are you educating your staff on the proper etiquette that you want them to follow in customer-guest relations and interactions? So that's it, guys. Those are my 5 how questions that I want you to think about when thinking about your guest experience for this year. So just to recap with you, number 1, how are guests welcomed at your establishment? Number 2, how can you eliminate friction for your guests? Number 3, how can you create memorable experiences for them? Number 4, how can you create surprise and delight moments in the everyday visits of your guest in your establishment? 5, how are you training and educating your staff on the proper etiquette that you want them to follow in these guest interactions? Those are the questions that I'm asking you. Guys, 79% of people prefer to do business with a brand that shows them that they actually care about them as a person, as an individual, all of those things. And so while it's easy for us to believe that if we have the best attractions and the swankiest looking building and the best food options, that we're going to be a super success, that's just half of the picture. A successful business is one that has the type of customer service that finds pleasure in ensuring that the guests who come in its doors have awesome experiences. Guest service is essential and leaving guests amazed and wanting more and wanting to come back. And anyone who's out there who's done a little bit of marketing knows it's way less expensive for us to attract the same guest back over and over and get somebody who maybe used to come once a month to come 2 times a month than it is to attract brand new guests. And so let's capitalize on the guests that we have there. Let's make sure that they have an awesome experience. Let's make sure our employees are ready to give them that. So what kind of guest service do you want to be known for at the end of 2023? So thank you guys for giving me a few minutes of your time today as we go through those questions that have just been, I couldn't stop thinking about while I was in my travels. So thank you for spending time with us. Thank you again to my 2023 Think Tank sponsors. I'm so grateful for them. If you have an idea for Think Tank, want to be a guest, or would like to sponsor, please email me at candi@trainertainment.net and we can definitely hook that up. And then thanks everyone, and I'll catch you next time.